people don't understand how early retirement actually works. But if they could retire earlier, they would. Not to stop living, but to gain that freedom of choice.
Today, we're reviewing a real early retirement case of a single individual, 45 years old, asking us, can I retire earlier? Can I retire at age 55? I have 10 years left. What does that look and feel like for my life, my health, my finances, and so much more? We're going to go into several visuals. We're going to share some real financial planning charts, real data, go over taxes, go over the gross, go over the net, showing real examples of what happens at 55. What happens at 59? What happens with part-time work maybe as well, to give you that guidance and give you that clarity throughout this entire video. Now, again, my name is David. I'm a wealth and tax strategist. I've been guiding people for over 10 years now. I do have 2 master's degrees, certificate in financial planning, a Marine veteran, and I'm a co-founder of Awaken Financial Designs. And remember, this is educational only, not financial, tax, or legal advice. Be aware of your own situation, goals, and needs.
Yes, and I'm Ashley, and I have a master's degree in business leadership. I'm also a financial and wellness coach, and I help people retire earlier, wealthier, and happier.
So let's get into it here. So first image coming on the screen here right now, as we can see, we're going to give you all of the current case details we have. Now, this again is a 45-year-old single female that wants to retire early by age 55. And is it possible? Now, we have about 10 years to go until that occurs. Now, breaking down the screen on here, we can see we have makes gross $150,000 annual, but we want to know the net number. So that net number afterwards is $110,000 roughly, and that's our federal, our state, our city taxes, FICA, that's your Medicare and Social Security and so much more. Now on the expenses, they estimate roughly $6,000 a month, which would be $72,000 a year. So what is the net money left to invest, to save, or to allocate? Roughly $38,000 a year is what we'd have. Now this person also does have a real estate property or their primary residence. Estimated value, $360,000. Mortgage remaining, about $302,000. They have about a 5.5% interest rate on a 30-year. Then their Social Security benefits, it says estimated only. It's only an estimation. We're at about $1,200 at 63 years of age. Now, their current portfolio, what they have, this is very important to understand for taxes, tax deferred. That is an IRA and a 401k. You can see those values over there as well. Now keep in mind, on those tax deferred accounts, they are taxed as income when money is taken out or withdrawn. And if you take money out of those accounts before 59 and a half years old, there could be an additional 10% early penalty on top of the taxes. So we want to be aware of that. We also do have the tax-free items, that Roth IRA or that Roth 401k. Now keep in mind with those, the money's taxed on the way in. When the money's taken out in the future, that money is tax-free when it is taken out in the future. However, what people don't know about Roth IRAs is, again, if that money's taken out before 59 and a half years old, there's a potential 10% penalty on any earnings that have occurred. So the contributions is tax-free, but any earnings that have occurred have that penalty. Then we have the non-qualified or non-retirement account. Now that one gets the short-term or long-term capital gains. Ideally, we want to look at those long-term capital gains on there because that is if you've held that security, stock, ETF, or mutual fund for more than 12 months and there are gains, you get the more favorable long-term capital gains tax chart and tax rates to utilize on there. Then in the bank account, we can see that as well, how some money in there. So our total combined values they currently have are about $344,400. So Ashley, as you can see on your notes, there's a lot of information we went over, but we have to start with clarity. We have to start with where they're presently at, right?
Yeah. So while David is walking through the numbers, I want to invite you to really notice how this plan feels. If this were your plan, how would this feel to you?
Yeah, and keep in mind too, this is for a single individual. So of course, if later on in their life, right, if they ever got married, if they ever got a partner, if they ever moved in with someone else, right, that's going to change the finances. But typically from what we've always seen, adding a second person, that's going to be additional income, additional funds in here. But for now, we're planning for the single life. And if that's how this individual chooses to live life, that's totally fine. We respect everyone's wishes on here. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting when you think about it to really have that picture. And like I said earlier, to really think about how you feel because this is your life, really, and everything that you've worked towards. And now it's really just planning for your future to see if you can retire earlier.
So now we're going to look at age 55. What is that net number you have? We're going to look at the tax impacts at age 55. And then we're also going to look at, well, what happens at age 55? I'm done working full time, but then I want to work part time. I don't mind working part time, maybe for an extra 3 to 4 years. So we're going to show at 55, you leave that full time job and then you work part time for 4 years. How does that change the plan? How does that change the life? Because I mean, really, Ashley, we have a lot of people we meet that say, my full time job, I don't want to work anymore,
Right.
but they're okay to work part time, right?
Yeah, I mean, we do actually have a lot of clients, they've worked in corporate, they've done the typical 9 to 5 that has been stressful, and yet they still don't see themselves completely, retiring from the job force. But what they still want to do is do a labor of love and do something that they're passionate about, like, for example, volunteering at a dog shelter.
So whether it's volunteering, right? But they still want to get paid, of course, because it is a
Yes.
part-time job we
Yes.
want to mention on there. So again, that's just another example we're going to be showing you on here. So let's get into that very next screen coming up here to look like what happens at age 55. So you notice coming up on here now, we have several items to look at on here. I'm gonna go over this with you on here. And you can look at net of taxes on here. Now again, we focus on net of taxes because not the gross number. No one cares what the gross is if you're gonna have to pay taxes on there. We wanna give you the net number you can receive on there. And you'll notice in those two tiny red boxes on there, it does say the year on there, 2036 on there. So that is age 55 for this individual. Now they can get roughly $4,832 every month, net of taxes, again, number of variables on here, and that would go until their projected age of death on here. Now, we always like people to spend more money the first 10 to 15
Right.
years of their retirement on there because they can travel more, go on more experiences. So we might increase that number to $5,500 a month, all right, or $5,700 a month on your net of tax. And then once they hit 70 or hit 75, we can drastically decrease those. However, this person though, if you were left at 55, you'd get about $4,800 net of taxes every single month. Now, to the left, that portfolio mix, right? That's that 401k, the IRA, that's that Roth account, that health savings account on there, that non-qualified account, a long-term capital gains, short-term capital gains, and so much more on there, roughly about $1.1 million. Now, the box below there in green, this is what we call an upper guardrail. So let's just say the markets do well. Maybe your portfolio does a lot better on there over time. It could be $1.5 million at age 55. And if that all occurred on there, you could go from $4,800 net of tax every month down to that number of $6,221 net of taxes every month on there. But the system wants to give you a high probability average of what you can most likely expect, which is the $4,800 number, not the $6,200 number, because that would be a false hope. So we want to give people the information, but aware of what is that. Ashley, how would that make someone feel, you think, after seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, so to put it bluntly, you'd feel like, wow. I mean, this is actually the number that I can truly spend. Again, like David said, the tax is already taken out. So that is your number. And that to me feels comfortable.
Yeah, so us is, again, it could be stressful, right? It could be anxiety because no one really ever sees what's my number, what's my age, what is that like, right? Our role is to give you that on there, but really that's where, Ashley and I then talk to people and say, how does that make you feel? Is that a number that would work for you? Is that not a number that would work for you? Tell me your thoughts on there. I mean, Ashley, anything else about how that could feel to someone?
I think it just depends on every person's unique situation. I mean, we've had kind of a mix of, some people being, like David said, anxious, and some being like, wow, that is a comfortable, that is a doable number. But actually visually seeing that really does alleviate those concerns.
So now let's go to the next visual coming up here on the screen here at age 55. Look at more of the taxes on here, right? Now, what you're going to notice on this one is I do have a green horizontal line going across the screen there in 2036 because that is when they would fully acquire or stop working altogether. Now, we can also see on the far right-hand side that is the effective total tax rate. Again, the effective total tax rate. And you can see over the course of the lifetime, we're in that 5 to 5.5% effective tax rate. Then we see a vertical box in red I have on there. That is the gross total income. Again, this is before taxes. The gross total income we can see. And after they quit working on there, we could see roughly about $70,000 gross every single year they could have on there as well. So it's just another tax chart we can show them on here as well. Now, we're now going to be showing you on here to say, well, hey, what if I stopped working at 55, but I want to work part-time still? I still want to work part-time. I want to make some more money still. Maybe that's not enough. Maybe I need some more money on there. What would it look like if I worked part-time from 55 to 59 years old? So we're going to show you another set of visuals and charts on here as well to now show the same plan, but now someone quitting your full-time job at 55 and then doing part-time job, whatever else they want to do here until age 59 years old. Ashley, anything so far about the part-time you want to add?
Well, like I said earlier, we've had, people in the past where they aren't really wanting to stop working entirely. So they want to still do something part-time, less stress, and still have an income for themselves, not entirely go without it.
So next I'm in here now we can see on this screen here again, this is at 55, full-time job is done, but part-time to 59 years old, and we're taking about 1/3 of their income. So again, this is 1/3 of their full-time job income we are applying to this scenario on here. Now we can see on here too, we're going to the year 2040, and both of those boxes in blue with the white numbers on there. We could see our net of tax number. Again, keep in mind, this is after taxes, the money you get to keep, not the gross. Now we're at $5,283 every single month you could utilize on there. And as a reminder, that's until age of death. And like we said last time, we want you to spend more money the first 10 years at least in retirement on there when you're still young, healthy, active to enjoy more life. So we might increase that number to $6,000 or increase that number to $6,500 on there. And then when you hit 70, give or take, decrease that number as well. But again, if you were to quit working at 55, do part-time till 59, you now have roughly $5,200 net of taxes every month. On the left, you could see that portfolio mix. Again, that IRA, that 401k, that Roth, that health savings account, the non-qualified account, long-term capital gains, and so much more, roughly about 1.1 million. Now below in the green, like we saw earlier as well, this is the, well, what if my portfolio does amazing and markets do amazing on there, right? What's my better case scenario? Well, you can see now the number in the bottom right on there, we go from $5,200 net of tax a month to $6,512 net of tax every month. But as always, right, we want to show the most realistic outcome, not the higher outcome, but it's good to give that clarity and that guidance on what is possible, but we want to plan for that $5,200 net of tax every month. So Ashley, we just showed a new scenario. What would someone think now about seeing this with that part-time work?
I mean, I think that they, still, right? It's scary. So they may have some of those concerns like, is this something that's going to be doable for me? Because they're used to that comfort, what they're currently doing. And so doing something different, adding that to, I mean, you're taking your whole life into account here. So it is something that they just think about and asking them those deep questions. What would this look like?
Yeah, because again, our role is to give you the numbers and the data and the plans. We're going to see some more charts here in a minute, more visuals here in a minute here as well. But right, it is, how do you personally feel about that number? What does that number mean like to you? Is that enough for your own self? And we can't answer that. No computer can answer that. That is a personal choice someone else has to make, and it's an emotional choice somebody else has to make as well. But again, the point is giving someone clarity, because no one usually sees, what is my number at this age?
Right.
No one usually sees how much can I make at this age. No one sees what's possible. But we're all about not guessing, not wondering, being proactive and finding out what is your numbers.
To get also, just to jump in here, is to get those years of life, right? Because you just don't know. And that's where we're here to kind of give you that clarity, as David said, but really like how many good years do we assume that we have?
Yeah, so let's go to the next chart here coming up here as well. Again, at 55, done full-time working on there. Now we're going to go ahead in here and keep doing part-time work from 55 to 59. And same as we compared it before, now let's take a look here. So chart coming up here, you're going to see now two horizontal green lines compared to the last one, just had the one. This one shows the first one at 2036. That full-time job is done. We now do part-time. And again, the part-time pay is about 1/3, if not less, of that full-time work. And you'll see the second green horizontal line on there now. That is when the part-time job ends on there. So then by 2040, there's no work in any way, shape, or form occurring on there that is income coming in. Now we've seen that same vertical red box. This is gross total income, so no taxes taken out yet. And then we see on the far right-hand side, the effective total tax rate. And we can see on that effective total tax rate, overall, again, we're in about that 5 to 5.5% total effective tax rate on there as well. But now we can go ahead and we can look at on here, hey, I've now seen option one of I go to age 55, I quit my full-time job, no more part-time pays coming in, I'm totally done.
Right.
What is my values? What are my net? What are the taxes? What are my impacts? We also have been able to show them on here, well, at age 55, I quit the full-time job, but now I get a part-time job somewhere, right? It's less than 1/3 of my usual pay on there, but it's part-time work on there. I'll have a little more money coming in. How does that impact my plan? How does that impact my net numbers on here as well? So we can view that with these visuals. I mean, Ashley, how does someone usually feel when they see this, or what are some thoughts people might have?
I think that like when people finally see their plan, their body relaxes before their mind even understands it, and that's powerful and believable.
Yeah, and so this is going to be an individual choice for this person, right? Now, there's several variables and
Yeah.
things can change, right? And
If
like
they
we said,
decide to bring in
right?
somebody else.
Yeah, they're an individual on here as well, right? And that's very common that we have lots of individuals, whether it's by choice being single their whole lives, maybe they had a divorce, maybe a spouse passed away. It doesn't really matter. It's given that clarity. Because if a life change does happen,
Absolutely.
where they get a partner, where they get married, maybe just someone moves in with them, right? That'll change the finances on here overall. But again, we want people to understand, be proactive. Don't guess. Don't wonder.
Right.
Ask questions. See a plan about your own life. Know, can I retire in 5 years? Can I retire in 10 years? Is early retirement possible? What are my net incomes, right? What are my tax impacts? What are the better allocation methods I could be doing with my money when we're reviewing things like the Roth IRA or Roth 401k, like a 401k and an IRA, like a health savings account or HSA, like that non-qualified, non-retirement account, so we can utilize that long-term capital gains tax, right? Being aware of these 10% penalty fees that may or may not occur, Social Security benefits, and just so much more. Because again, if we can help people retire earlier, wealthier, and happier, we would love to. Now, we know not everyone's able to retire earlier, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right?
No.
Maybe your own life situation, your own life circumstances, right? Maybe you still worked hard out there, but for whatever reason, you can't retire earlier, right? That is totally fine. That is your own life, and we respect that as well. But we still want to give guidance and clarity, because if you are able to retire earlier and have additional years of life, our own personal beliefs is you should do that, because you never know when your time's coming, someone you love's time's coming on there as well. Ashley, what else do you want to add to this here before we close out?
You know, really, the whole thing is just having that conscious planning behind it. You've worked so hard, and now it's time for you to enjoy life and doing the things that you love with your loved ones.
So again, it's education only, not financial, tax, or legal advice. And as our motto always goes, retire earlier, wealthier, and happier.